would like to start, of course, by thanking Natalia for giving me the opportunity to make a small presentation of what we're currently doing in Cyprus. Basically, what I am going to speak about is about infrastructure, because the ministry I'm currently running, the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Works, has to do a lot of with infrastructure. And of course, the main infrastructure we have in Cyprus has to do with airports, ports, telecommunications infrastructure, and road transport. And of course, I'm going to say something about shipping as well, because it's all part of it, related to it. Now, what is the vision of our government, and what should be the vision of Cyprus, being an island in on the eastern part of the Mediterranean, of course? Our vision is to utilize the strategic location of Cyprus as a center for providing services for the whole of the region. So our vision is to utilize our infrastructure not only to service the needs of a small market like Cyprus, but to service the needs of the whole region. And I think this is a very important mission to be accomplished. Of course, many times we're talking about the strategic location of Cyprus, but the key is not only to discuss about it, but to find ways to utilize it in the best possible way. Now, if I would start with the infrastructure we have, I would like to start, of course, with aviation. And aviation and ports, they are very important, especially for an island, because we cannot have any railways to go to the other parts of the world. So aviation is really important for our economy, because for a start, you cannot have tourism without aviation. And actually, more than 80% of the passengers that come through our airports, they come for tourist purposes. And basically the traffic at our airports is linked with the tourist sector. So currently aviation is used, of course, for tourism. It's also used for business travelers as well. So in order to have Cyprus as a business center, you need to have good connectivity. And of course, it services the needs of local people as well. Now, regarding the infrastructure for airports, and here I have to say that in order to utilize the strategic location of a country, you need three things, basically. You need good infrastructure, you need good service providers, and of course, you need a government which is committed towards this goal, and a government that will accommodate this goal through appropriate policies. So starting with aviation, of course, back in 2006, we signed a concession agreement with Hermes Airports. And as part of that concession agreement, they built two new airports, one in Larnaca and one in Paphos. Those airports, they came into operation in 2009. And those airports, they are considered as very modern, and they are capable for servicing the needs of our country. And of course, we have there a very good operator, which includes companies like Bouygues, Aegis, the French companies, Vantage, the Canadian operator, Air Rianda, the Irish operator. So we have a very good international consortium there running the airports. And here I have to say that many times when we do this sort of concession, and people say, yeah, but they are bringing people from abroad. And just to say that 10 years after giving out this concession, we currently have at Hermes Airports a completely Cypriot management structure. So through this concession agreement, there's definitely the benefit of a lot of transfer of expertise and experience and knowledge from abroad to Cyprus. So it's very beneficial from every point of view. So we have very good infrastructure there. We have a very good service provider. And of course, the other thing we needed to accommodate is to find ways to increase connectivity. Now, how do you increase connectivity? You have to create a business-friendly environment where companies, they will feel that they're welcome here. I'm sure that a lot of you know that a couple of years ago, we had a national carrier in Cyprus called Cyprus Airways. And I have to say that some of the practices we employed in the past, they were related into protecting the local carrier, which was of course state-owned. We had the unions, every measure we took, everybody was saying through doing that, basically you are creating unfair competition for the local carrier. This is something actually I see even in large countries like France nowadays, that they are worried about their national carriers. Of course, Cyprus Air was closed in January 2015. When it closed, it had a market share of around 10%. And contrary to what people said before it closed, 2015 was a year that aviation traffic actually increased by more than 3.5%, around 3.6%. And in 2016, we currently have an increase in traffic of around 16%. So somebody cannot claim that the closure of the national carrier was detrimental for aviation, but somebody might even say that it sort of liberated the government to be able to pursue some strategies to welcome new investors in the country easier. So what we have done basically as policy as a government, we gave certain incentives along with the airport operator to bring additional traffic to the island. We pursued very aggressively the strategy of open skies. For example, with Russia, we have a completely free agreement. Of course, it only applies to local carriers, but there's no limit to the number of flights. Basically, we pursue these strategies. And the other thing, of course, is to encourage new players to come to the island. And since then, we have 3 European Union carriers that are based on the island, Aegean, Blue Air, and Ryanair. We have 2 that they obtained a local license, TUS and Cobalt. We never had more than 1. It was only Cyprus Airways before that. And we have another 2 that will get a license within the next 3 months. So I think things are getting much better in the sector of aviation. And of course, I have to say that all 4 of these companies, the 2 that have already got the license and the other 2 that are in the process of getting the license, they're all foreign owned. So it shows that Cyprus is friendly for FDI. And via this, you're not going to ask me a question now,
No, one question, just one. The Cyprus Airways. So one of them bought a brand of Cyprus Airways. What is the condition of this?
Okay, I will say that, of course. Thank you, Natalia. So we have all these 4 companies that are all bringing FTA to our country. One of them is owned by Mr. Filev, is related, of course, to S7, which is the second largest carrier in Russia. And of course, they are the ones that they bought the logo of Cyprus Airways, and there are conditions that they will fly it and they will have it for 10 years. So we wanted a very reliable carrier that will fly the name of Cyprus Airways. So for the people who had this feeling that they want to see the Cyprus Airways logo fly in there, they're going to see it with the government getting money and not paying money to support a company which was having huge losses, basically. So I think the aviation sector is developing very nicely. The last bit of the equation, of course, is regarding the regulator. And I have to say that we're making changes there as well. We have a legislation in front of the MPs now for the creation of a separate company for their traffic controllers. That one hopefully will be approved before the end of the year. Through that, we envision that we're going to solve all the problems with any delays we have in our FIR. And we have started a project for the restructuring of the civil aviation department to convert it eventually to an authority so as to strengthen it and make it more flexible. So we do have this policy of accommodating the aviation sector as much as possible. Now, of course, Natalia will ask me another question. What sort of investment opportunities do I see in this sector? Let me start with infrastructure and say that in cooperation with Hermes Airport, within the next 2-3 months, there are going to be 2 projects. The one will be for a cargo village at the airport, which I think is quite important. And that one will be for a duration which will extend beyond the concession agreement, which expires in 2031. That's why we're doing it together with Hermes. And the other one will be for a fixed base operator, mainly for private jets and this sort of facilities. So there are investment opportunities, and of course we have currently the negotiations with the preferred bidder for the spaces of the old airport at the Larnaca port. The second sector, of course, which is the one that Natalia mentioned at the beginning, is ports infrastructure. Now, I have to say that the Limassol port privatization was a complex exercise because of many reasons, because of the practices that we currently have, because of practices that we currently have at the port which are not the best, because of dog labor. So it was an extremely, and is still an extremely complex project, I have to say. It was completed in a record time of 10 months. which is really important. It was a project with a lot of competitive tension. We had 5 organizations bidding for the 3 main concessions, 6 for the other one. For the 2 main one, we had a lot of competition, and we achieved very good results, of course, for the government. But we also envisioned that these people, they will bring additional economic activity at the island. We can see them; they're already thinking ways to make money. Of course, as a government, making money is not always our objective, of course. But the reality is that we need somebody which has an incentive to bring this additional economic activity, and also it was a way to change the way we work at the port. So as part of the process, we bought the porter activity, for example, which was a private monopoly running since, 50 years ago. I'm sure that the people from Limassol know about it. And these sort of practices, they prevented the development of the port. So I think that was very, very important, the way it ran. And as I said, we got some very good operators like Eurogate, DP World, and P&O for the marine services, and we're looking forward to cooperating with them. This concession will start at the end of January.